let me go. I love Brene Brown. She's a researcher, an academia.
Yeah.
So I really loved that fact about her. She's an author, and she also has a podcast, by the way, which I enjoy. I love listening to her talk. So being a researcher, then she's done shame. She's really researched on shame. Most of her books, or her earlier books, are on shame and how to overcome shame and how to talk about it. And then something interesting happened as she was doing her research. Okay, now this is me telling you the story of the book. I'm going to try not to say everything. So as she was doing her research, something interesting happened in the middle of her research. She came across this word, wholeheartedness, and she stopped and she put everything away, and she was like, this is too much. You know, the way our society is addicted to doing things. We are addicted to, I'm busy. I mean, unanicall, I can't talk to you. Let me call you back when I can talk to you. We are always busy. We are always doing from our 9 to 5 or 8 to 5. We go back home. We are wives. We are mothers. We are business women. Not one business, several. And then we are also, our social lives are going on, you know. So in the midst of all that busyness, there's the essence of things like rest, things like who are you really in the midst of all this. I mean, you've lived like this in that busy highway for so long or for so many years. You reach a point and ask yourself then, who am I? What kind of a parent am I? What kind of a woman am I? What kind of a friend am I? You know? So that's how this book ended up being born. Do you know the way you never really know how to start or where to start from? So this is one of those. But always the positive vibe. So we hope that we are going to take you to a very deep journey, but a very exciting journey. So this is how, anyway, Be Different decided to start 2022. I have a group of very beautiful people. I'm going to have them introduce themselves. We have a book club. So every month we read a book and we discuss. It's called Bookiscape. Please follow us on Instagram. So this month we read a book called The Gifts of Imperfection, a really interesting book. And I thought that's perfect for Be Different podcast. I mean, we are always saying, dare to be different, be you, be authentic. So it is in line with what we are talking about. And lucky enough, guess who's the host? Whoop, whoop, Nekesa Ochieng. So I welcome you to this book review, book discussion, and an episode of Be Different podcast. Welcome, my guests.
Thank you.
So I'll have you go around, introduce yourselves. Just say your name. Then as we answer, people will get to know you more and your stories. Let's start from there.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Sheila Mwalili. I'm glad to be here.
Okay, thank you. I'm Clara Mwangi. I'm so happy.
I'm Jackie Kamweti. I'm happy to be here.
Good afternoon. I'm Esther Nyambura.
Florence Oloo, happy to be here.
Yay! Yeah, so guys, we're going to dig in. We will do sort of a summary of what the book is about. Anyone can go.
Okay. It's a great book.
Yeah.
For me, I learned basically not really a lot of new stuff, but reminders sort of. Especially now that you're linking it with Be Different, the need to stand out as opposed to fitting in and being the best one as you also try to fit in. So there's a lot of pressure. But what a great book. I mean, reminding us how to be unique, how to stand out in our unique ways and not necessarily compete. I could talk forever, but I actually liked the way that she made it look like you're not just one thing. You're a multifaceted human being and you can shine in all those areas. You don't need to feel pressured that you need to be a good mom and give up your career, or you need to give up your career for you to be a good mom. Like, you can have it all. And it's amazing. Yeah, it was a good read.
Up to where I have reached, I think the book just crushed all societal norms of probably where we've put ourselves, especially as women. It totally demystified everything, put it aside, and now it's like a new page of who are you, what do you want to be, where are you going, without not necessarily competing with the world, but being you who am I? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? How different can I be? So it crashed everything that I know about being a woman to who do I be?
Yeah. Wow, I love that. So enjoy. Let me start asking the questions before we talk here forever. So generally, how do you feel about what you read? So we'll first start with Nyambura, Jackie and Clara, because Sheila and Flo have spoken.
It was a very awesome experience.
Yeah.
To some extent, I had to share some part with my husband. It's something people tell me.
Yeah.
I'm so into me and me. So this book opened to, what do I say? You know, there were these 3 tools. I hope I'm not going.
Yes. No, it's okay.
The courage, compassion, and connection.
Yes.
So everything I was trying to do, I was trying to revolve around these 3 tools. Yes. So, but generally, I think it's a very good book.
Wow.
Yes.
Jackie, how do you feel about what you read?
The best part is when she talked about, this is the last page, I think so, last chapter, when she talked about music and dance, because music for me, when I wake up, that was the best part for me, music and dance, and the way you just enjoy music, because I can listen to reggae, I can go gospel. That was the best part. The one I felt like when I look looking into myself is keeping calm. I think I can overthink, I can have anxiety for days. Yeah, that's the way I felt.
Wow.
But most of the things I could feel, okay, I'm not so badly off. But shame and anxiety, I felt like, okay, that one still. Yeah.
Clara, how did you feel?
Okay. The book, it's a very nice book.
Yeah.
I think it has really helped me, especially when it comes to things like shame. Yeah. Although some things like dancing, I normally like them, but now you see, you fear what people will say. Yeah. But now at least I have confidence. I will not fear anymore.
Yeah. So, do you feel like you want to answer that question? How did you feel about what you read?
I felt liberated.
Wow.
Liberated because I believe in everything she said, which sometimes may not sit right with everybody. But I felt liberated. I felt validated to a certain extent.
Yeah. Such an amazing January, like a January read. Flo.
I think what struck me was about sharing your story. I kept on looking back and actually just underlined it. Who has earned the right to hear my story?
Wow.
And I kept on thinking how at times how women get into the trap of oversharing our stories everywhere, such that you don't remain even authentic anymore. So that kept on ringing in my mind throughout, and the bit about being a perfectionist. And it was just about, no, you don't need to be a perfectionist, it's about self-improvement. That really struck me.
Yeah. Wow. So what do you think? Okay, so Nyambura has already gone ahead and mentioned the 3 major pillars of the book: courage, compassion, and connection. Maybe we can say our takeouts on that. Can I? Let me answer first, because I won't answer. So for me, it's interesting to know, and this is what always comes back to my mind, that being vulnerable is being very courageous. And that's why those are among the reasons why I sit and talk and talk and do podcasts, because at the end of the day, this is usually a very vulnerable space. And for someone to come here and just decide to talk, that's courage. For anyone who answers yes to my call, when I call them and I'm like, come, let's sit and have a chat, and we're going to record it for the world, it doesn't matter, one person will hear it or 2 people will hear it, that's courage, right? And then compassion, how it stood out for me, compassion and connection. Let me start with the connection bit. The way right now we are always connected, e-connected. Siniliona status yake yako sawa. Just before. So there's that lack of human connection that's been lost nowadays. Like, I remember there's an example. You show up at someone's door and announce, you didn't call. You didn't call. Like nowadays, it's ata tumeambiwa inaitwaje these statements for normalize not showing up on people's doors unannounced. You need to call in advance and text whatever. Like so many things have been lost in this busyness that even human connection is among them. Even families. How many families have WhatsApp groups? And yet how often do we meet? Like nowadays, even just calling our parents is a big deal and all that, because we're like, si nilikusalimia WhatsApp hukujibu ukuona nimetuma ka forward hapo. So that was a big one for me. So just say how the 3 pillars stood out for you: courage, compassion, and I think we'll start with
I can start. So with courage, at least for that pillar, I think they are not bad, but there was what stood out mainly was compassion with boundaries. Something about that you can be compassionate and at the same time you set boundaries and still not sound like you're a bad person. So I don't know how that one can be practiced. That one I think I had a conflict because I don't know how at the same time you can be compassionate and still give boundaries. But you're saying there's a statement I really was looking for something. Let me just give me time a little.
I think it's
compassionate people are bound. You've seen it. 16. The heart of compassion is really acceptance. The better we accept ourselves and not there. It's the compassionate people are boundaried people. So that means if you're compassionate, you are.
Oh, yeah, that one also. I remember.
Yeah.
So I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That one also is.
So now that if you don't have boundaries, because I'm also seeing something I highlighted, the fear of setting boundaries and holding people up. One of the greatest and least discussed barriers. This is a barrier to compassion.
Yes.
The fear of setting boundaries and holding people accountable.
Yes. Especially when it's come to family and friends. You know, co-workers is very easy to put boundaries. But you have a sister or you have a brother who maybe you share things, but to some extent you don't want to share this part. But it's your blood, it's your... So setting a boundary and still maintaining that love and that friendship may be a little bit difficult. But I agree. Sometimes when you set boundaries, even if you have a rift for that time, later on, that boundary just set in and you respect each other and it will work. So that one was very... And another, for the what? The third one was... Connection. As you're talking connection, when you're talking about that WhatsApp, sometimes you may even call someone and ask something, then they say, I responded in WhatsApp. And those were days later. So I don't feel connected. The time you don't even feel connected to your partner, and you're living in the same roof, the same place, your brother and sister, you're staying together, you're seeing each other, but you feel there's that connection that is missing. So for me, I think that is a very major gap in the society and even right now. And right now what I'm feeling, yes, we are Nekesa, but I feel we can bond more. I can know you more. Sure. You can know me more. For example, when I ask someone, do you know the name of my child? Do you know my children? And we've been friends for, I can't say, 2010. I probably even don't know when my last born was born. So you know those small things that you want. So that connection, even in friendship, your close is your best friend, but I know there are friends that they can be asked a very simple question, even when you're born or your birthday, and no one knows. So I think that was,
Wow. Shots fired. Jackie.
Okay, courage. Courage. Okay, some situations is when I feel like personally they speak like I don't have courage. But things like dancing for me, this was easy. Talking to new people, very easy.
Wow.
That one is easy for me. Speaking in front of people, I had to learn. Taking risks, also it's because now I had to learn. Yani character development. Not character development.
Yes.
For me it's character development. Yani umejikuta uko peke yako huna job, no option, you have to risk. Sasa mimi yangu imekuja through character development. Sasa compassion, that part when she said about boundaries and that thing struck me because now you see if you stay with somebody even who's abusing you,
You're not loving yourself.
That one I know I'm not loving myself because I say, hey, gonna low self-esteem, it's easy. But now I realize, kumbe, you cannot have compassion for that other person if you're allowing them to walk all over you. You get now that one also struck very much for me. With going mtakaa pamoja, but utakuwa uko na nini?
Like encouraging bad behavior.
Yeah, kumbe with time you would
resent.
have exactly
You resent
that person. Namuendelea tu.
Yeah.
You get and then the last one is connection is zero. That one is like zero because now social media anyway utakutana na watu WhatsApp na Facebook, then there's no connection. I feel like that.
What if we treat connection like kids, like playgroup kids, like the way my child comes to me and asks me, "What's your name?" And says, for instance, she says, "Baraka Joshua is my brother." And for sure, it's not even part of the family. I even don't know Baraka Joshua. So I kept on thinking of it. When you talk about connection, I kept on trying to get into the mind of a child. Like the way they would go and today she's fun, he's going and hugging everybody, even when a taxi man, and all of us are like, we're cringing. But so I kept on thinking of it in the mind of a child. What if I wear the mind of a child when it comes to connection?
For me, I think connection is something we need to work. I really need to work hard. Because now I can remember, like, kama uko na function, so you have a wedding or maybe a burial, then unachukua namba zote ziko kwa simu yako, then you start WhatsApp group. How do you know pengine hata ulinishuka tu and then I took your number then unaanza kuniweka kwa WhatsApp group. So I think that's something we need to really work. We need to be serious about it. Mambo ya kupatana social media, then you think that we are friends.
True.
Yeah. We are not.
So for you, from the three, courage, compassion, and connection.
Courage, I think it's also something that I also need to work hard. Like now, I fear cameras. For compassion, I don't remember exactly what I read about.
Okay. Sheila?
Well, for me, it was really, I kept thinking it's more about being intentional. The courage to share your story, you have to be intentional about it. The courage to shed off the shame and stand out and be authentic in who you are also has to be very intentional. Connection has to be very intentional. Compassion has to be very intentional. You talked about setting boundaries at some point, and I was thinking, setting boundaries is not because you're mean, it's because you love yourself. There are times you have to really do that to protect yourself, and because sometimes being compassionate, let me give you a practical, now I'm being there is someone I've been trying to really get them help because they've been drinking for over 20 years. But you get this person, counselor, and they are told this is your problem and this is what you need to do, but 2 days later, of course it's expected because they're going through shock, they didn't expect to be told they have an alcoholism problem and etc. But 2 days later they go back to the drink, and they now come and say, I was told this is a disease, so you guys have to understand that I'm sick. You get? So they're using it now to, they're not willing to walk the journey and get over it. They're not using it as a shield. You guys should understand.
I'm sick.
I am sick. It's just like, you're diabetic and you have education for diabetes. So that's where I think the boundaries come in, and even when you're connecting, you're not connecting from what is it called? I don't know how to put it, but you're connecting from on a case by case basis. It's not a one size fits all kind of a thing. So I think for me it was about being intentional, and you will find someone who's willing to share their story and someone else who's So what do you do?
Whole block.
Yes. So it's
your
on a
energy.
case by case basis.
Protecting yourself.
It's a case by case basis.
Flo, have you reacted to the three?
Yeah, I kept on thinking about from a personal perspective on courage, and I could tie it to what she was talking about, shame, because I've had experiences where you kind of going like it's like this thing for a heartbeat. There's a part of it where I constantly come off as very courageous. I speak my mind. Then if somebody says that no, that idea is not worth it, then you climb. And I kept on asking my when now reading through the book and even going ahead of it, then I was like, you know what, there is no shame in being myself. If that's the path that I've chosen and want to be vulnerable to these people, then I should go for it. In terms of compassion, that really struck me about the bit on boundaries, because the bit where it says, would it be better?
Actually highlighted.
Would it be better if you could be kinder but firmer? How would our lives be different if there were less anger and more accountability? What would our work and home lives look like if we blamed less but had more respect for boundaries? And I try to tie it back to even in a workplace situation. When you start creating boundaries, you will face the stigma or shame of now you are protecting your space. You don't want people to cross your space. But the way you're saying about the alcoholic, you are helping the other person not to hurt themselves. Because probably they'll get into your space and they'll get more hurt. So I'm being compassionate enough not to let you into some stuff. Yes, and just give you space.
Wow. Being compassionate is just... It's hard, but it's work. Hard. So
there's this last part. Let me just read it. To practice courage, compassion, and connection is to look at life and the people around us and say, I'm all in.
Wow.
No negativity, no neza kuwa, just all in. In a relationship, friendship, all in. Work, all in. So I think if we start practicing like that,
to be like that.
If
the whole of us.
Even if you're my friend, but I know your weakness, unachelewa. I'm always on time. You change the last minute plans. But as long as I'm all in this relationship,
it's okay.
We'll handle it. We'll put boundaries. Because I love you so much, we'll put boundaries and we'll still
protect your image.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, we still, when we are all in, even in relationship, it will work out.
Okay. I love that. So there's a question here about digging deep. Let me read for you what dig deep means. So dig deep, number one, it's the first D, get deliberate. And then the second is the I in the word dig is get inspired. So there's get deliberate, get inspired, and get going. At the end of the day, I like that she says there's a lot of how to books. And we've read all those. A lot of how to books, how to do this, how to do this, how to do this. So she's giving us a different way of tackling things or tackling issues. So you ask yourself, what are you going to be deliberate on after that? And what has inspired you? Get inspired, or what will inspire you going forward, and then you get going. You take that first step. Right? So what do you think of that first method before now we go back to the subtopics?
Like how do I dig deep wholeheartedly? So I get deliberate. Like what I do after starting this book, I know I've been meditating, but on and off. You know, it depends on the mood when I wake up in the morning. So this day I get deliberate. Even the first thing I wake up and say, but I notice I'm deliberate. You know, when I wake up, there's this prayer we used to say for those Catholic kids. Good morning, Lord. Thank you for this morning. Help me to remember that there's nothing that is going to happen that you and I together we cannot handle. It's just like a short prayer when you're in a hurry. So that prayer start, good morning, Lord. Thank you for today. So I'm deliberate. The first thing that comes out of my mouth is a thank you. Is a thank you for life. Thank you that you're awake. Thank you. So before even I start to pray, I continue just saying thank you. It's something I was reading. Even when you wake up, you wear your slippers. Thank you for this slippers. Thank you. It may look funny, but putting that mind in a positive. So I get deliberate on that. Another thing I get deliberate on after also reading this book was planning. I deliberately plan my day. Even if I know when you go to work it will be disoriented, I deliberately plan. I plan to do this. I plan to, when faced with negative energy, I plan to do this. And let me just give an example when it worked. During New Year, we were coming back from that Nakuru highway. And you remember that jam, eh? Mm-hmm. So before we left, my hubby wanted to leave very early. I told her, Aki, you can't come for holiday, then I'm rushing back home. And I don't even want to go home. So I told him, just let us pass here. We ride these quad bikes. Kidogo, then we go home. Kidogo was until what? 3 p.m. So when we were riding, we were having fun. But when he looked at the watch, he was like, now temperature just changed. So as we are going, we hadn't eaten. So we had to stop again to do what? So by the time we were going to that Nakuru High, it's at almost 4. But I decided no. I had fun. It was a nice day. And you're going to get home on time. I don't know how. Because I saw the jam and I'm like, I don't know how, but you're going to get home. So I just started talking positively to my husband. I think it was an U-turn because usually I just raise the temperature. But this time it was different. Just telling you to be okay. You just don't worry. You'll get home. At a candy jam. Let's just entertain ourselves. But as we were going somewhere, we saw Aka Junction. I just asked him, barabara in the up him. So it's going somewhere, but it can. So we just went that route. And I tell you by 6 we're in Nairobi. When people are getting at home at Sita, just that positive change of mind. Because I know if you're negative, trust me to get a lack of your jam. So I believe in that power positivity. So I get deliberate with my thought. The law of attraction, I get deliberate. If I know I'm going downhill, I stop. I get deliberate with what is in my head and what I'm thinking. And for what? After dig deep, deliberate, inspire. What inspires me? Books. Oh, yes. I have a reference for everything.
I know.
For relationship. for money, I have a reference. So with time, I think I've accumulated books for reference. I have those books that it's like your Bible. Anytime I go down, like this book, what I know for sure. Anything that you know, when I'm in this mood, what inspires me, it's if I read that chapter, remember that you're okay. Even this is another book, by the way. It's another book. So that is usually my inspiration. And the last one was
get going.
Get going. Yeah. Now there is no. You see, there's a book I was reading. I think even I posted that we waste time doing things that are urgent than those that are important. So right now, I take action with things that are important. Hata kama unaniharakisha, unaniambia deadline. As long as I have an important thing before that, I do that. I establish boundaries. I tell you, this is the most important thing. I know it is urgent, but I'll prioritize the important. Because we discover we put important things aside so much that we rush the whole day. You're so tired in the evening, but you've just been running, chasing your tail. Going on, whether you've been working, you can even show output. But how do you feel? Exhausted, angry that I had planned to prepare a business plan that I didn't do. So I've been trying now to take action by reviewing my past mistakes and taking action on correcting it. Yes, wow, that is my wholehearted journey.
Dig deep. Yes, dig deep. She's dug deep. Shame loves secrecy. What do you think about this? Have you ever shared something you considered shameful? And how did you feel? And what was the reaction of others? Sheila, we'll start with you, then we'll go like this.
Wow. For me, that one was really one of the deepest chapters, I think, about shame, about perfectionism. Yeah, because for the better part of my life that I can remember, I was always a perfectionist. Yeah. And when I look back, I realize it was a very counterproductive way of living. Yeah. Because you spend so much time beating yourself up for the things you have not done. You don't stop to celebrate what you've done, no matter how small it is. And there's a lot of negativity around it because there's that standard that you've set. And I think I like the title even more because it's about letting go of what you letting go of
who you think you're supposed to be who you really are. Embrace who you are.
Yeah. So I think for me, perfectionism was really an inhibiting factor and living the way life is supposed to be lived, you know, and trying to please everyone and fit in, and you forget you're so different, you're so unique. you cannot fit in and stand out at the same time. So for me, that one was a very, 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 it was actually, I think, one of the deepest.
Yeah.
So about sharing something that
You
that
consider
I considered shameful.
Have you ever? It's a yes or no, I guess.
Yeah, it is. I have shared. There's a time when things were really difficult in Nekesa. I remember you were part of this journey with me. And for some people, when I shared, it felt like you're seeking for sympathy. You're not taking the bull by its horns. You're not standing up and doing what you should do. But I learned at the end of the day that you need to be intentional about who you share with, and they need to have earned your trust. Yeah, because there are people you will share your story with, and they'll use it against you. So they must earn that level of trust for you to be vulnerable. So shamed, yes, I have been for sharing that, and I know better now. Yeah.
Wow. Clara.
About shame.
Yes.
Yes, that's something that I don't know what I can say about it because she has already talked about it. But there's this resilience. Yeah. So whenever it's like I encounter that shame, now I have to practice that. I have to move on. See taka apple. I have to go. Yeah.
Wow. Have you ever shared something you considered shameful? Have you ever shared that experience?
Of course, I might have, but I can't remember
The reaction
yeah.
you got.
Yeah.
Nyambura?
It was secrecy, shame, and
Like shame loves secrecy. So what do you think about that first? And then have you ever shared something you considered shameful? And how did you feel? And what was the reaction of others?
I'm a secretive person. That one has
You
not.
are.
Even if I talk a lot, just listen to what I say.
General stuff.
But I'm very good at general stuff. But it's so sad because I know many people cannot say who I am. I don't even think my family can say who I am.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I don't think I'm comfortable being vulnerable.
Wow.
Let me just say, I've never shared something that you can pin me on. I'm very secretive. I think I'll take most of my things for granted. Well, I have a policy, I don't like lying. So because I don't like lying, I don't say it. So if I know this thing may backfire on me, or I don't know how you react to it, and you see this connection. For me, I told you I don't feel the connection with so many people. So as long as I don't have that connection, when we are at work, I'll give you work-related relationship. When I leave there, until next time. When you're here, okay, I talk generally. Maybe there, maybe I need to do something, but yes, I'm very secretive.
And I can almost relate because of probably I keep on saying probably it's a personality hitch where you can really keep stuff to yourself, can be very introverted. We can go about our business as long as you're not getting into that. If it is work, call me on my work line. If it is personal, then you have my personal line to call me. So I understand what she's saying, but then at the same bit, there are instances where you become vulnerable from maybe you've gone through shame and you become vulnerable to people. And I don't know if I have a string of bad luck. Every time I have had those episodes of shame and become vulnerable, probably I've shared it with the wrong people and they've used it against me. And I was just reading through the book and I was just thinking an experience in October, November, December, the last quarter. And I'm like, I constantly question myself, how stupid was I to be vulnerable to this person? That's why when she kept on saying about who has earned your trust, then that was a very good learning for me. Because I've seen instances of where you have the shame and then you are vulnerable. But then the worst thing that I've done is to share it with the wrong people. Yes. So now at that point, now I know, yes, there is a bit of shame, there's vulnerability. But now the next step is, who am I sharing this information with? So this book jolted me into that, and I think it has set a right footing for 2022. So for all the niggas out there, if I don't share with
Just know.
Read something. And who?
Yeah, I've been reading.
Oh, myself. I think I talk. What do I think about? First, yes, I know. I feel like this is something I have come across, maybe from Christian teachings, because I've read the Bible for the longest time. That thing of saying, confess your sins one to another. For us, I used to understand it this way. Because for me, even if I sin and I tell God, I always feel like I have to tell someone, a human being. And for me, this has always been...
That's true.
For me, this has always been here. Like, I have to tell... I'll tell you, Flo, I feel like... We used to, like... Of course, after that, they'll put you in this accountability things, like, how do you want us to work with you? Then how do we help you? What do we do? It had to come from... It's been... so many years doing the thing. That's how we got into that space. Of course, the group, kuna watu walienda, kuna watu wali nini, kuna so many things have happened, but there's just a knit group that has remained that we've done this with for the longest time. So that's where I've met the concept. When you hide it, for us we used to say it will come out, and it will come out in the worst way and worst place. When you are not ready, but it will come out. And either it's in the way you act, it is in something that you will say. There's that fullness of who you have been created to be, who you are supposed to be, that you're not going to tap into. Because there are all these to sheltered DVDs.
Kuna X-Files too.
Umeshelter, si no? Na umesahau na umefunika cabinet na umetupaki.
It challenged something. I don't know. Let me just talk about it from the Christian point of view. That the first thing that, I don't know, maybe it's my conditioning. I don't know if it's the same for other people. But you're introduced to an angry God. Who is waiting for you to make a mistake so that he can punish you. So you live your life in fear, and when it comes to those things that nimefanya kitu fulani, you're really working hard to hide,
not to burn.
It becomes guilt instead of shame.
Yes, guilt and shame, exactly.
True, you're exposed to Adam and Eve suddenly out of Eden, but you don't see the beauty in that story.
Then you're introduced to hell.
Then you're introduced to hell and Satan.
And shame.
Well, me, I love the way she described that shameful loop. The way you zoom in on a situation, you're like, you zoom in. Time, by the time slows down at that page, it was in a slow motion. You're just like, what happened? Why? Anyway, this was. I agree with you. This was very powerful in terms of a whole chapter that's really that's deep. I didn't even know someone can research on shame. You know, you just love this lady. Gosh, yeah. So let me just read a paragraph. Shame is intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. It is always a pleasure to have hosted you. Thank you for listening. Follow us on the socials, Instagram and Twitter at BeDifferentKE, at I am Nekesa. Facebook is Nekesa Ochieng. Let's keep talking.